And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. This is the podcast that's about podcasters. It's for podcasters. And that's right, it's done by podcasters. And as you know at this point, my guest today is a podcaster. That's right. Pretty cool guy. Getting to know him here. I've only been talking for a couple of minutes, but he's got quite a mission ahead of him. And he's got a kick butt launch coming up. This is the podcast where the rising tide raises all ships. So I hope that everybody will get on board, support this guy, support his launch and everything he's doing. And without further ado, we will get rolling. Please welcome to the show the host of Pete versus Anxiety, Pete Delke. Pete, how you doing, man?
Doing great, Rory. Thanks so much. Awesome.
Okay, awesome, man. Now you've been podcasting for a while, but this is a newer podcast for you. You're getting ready to launch. You said you got like 7 episodes like already in the bank, ready to
Yeah.
go,
Yes, I
and
do.
okay, which is cool. Pete versus Anxiety. Tell everybody what this podcast is about, brother.
Okay, so basically the concept is that mental health isn't talked about enough. I know a lot of people do clickbait videos where they're like, "Oh, well, this month's, men's mental health or it's suicide prevention." But where's the space where people talk about these kind of things? That's the great thing about Pete versus Anxiety, though, is that we're creating the space that mental health is okay to talk about. I mean, yes, we know anxiety, we know depression, bipolar and all that kind of stuff, but how does it manifest in other people? That's the question we're answering, though. I have everybody from professionals to Amazon bestsellers. I have international bestsellers, different people. I even have a Columbine survivor that somebody's actually in the library that's coming up pretty soon that's going to give their firsthand account of exactly what happened. And that's the great thing about this podcast is that, we can talk about these things and not feel weird about it because, when I started this whole concept, I asked the question. I said, "Hey, what do you think when someone tells you that you're in therapy or you're talking to somebody?" The 9 times out of 10, "Oh, you're crazy."
Right.
You're not crazy, and it's okay to talk to somebody. That's the whole message here. It's just it's okay to talk to people. Like if you have a problem, you deal with something, talk to somebody about it. It's okay. Anxiety, it shows up different ways for different people. Like mine's different versus say, one of my guests named Mark, his was different versus mine. He has PTSD, anxiety, and a couple other things. He deals with it differently. I met a woman the other day. She said that she was so fixated on a coat on the back of her door that she thought if she moved it, her son would die, kind of thing. And it was just crazy. It's crazy here, but it's like these are how people feel about these things, and this is how they're dealing with it directly. And then, a lot of people that come on, they'll tell you like they're either experts, they've been doing this for a while. The reason they got into this is because their mental health. And that's why I'm here now, is because I'm trying to create this space where people can talk about it and it's okay, like I got the quick videos are great. Don't get me wrong. It's great to bring awareness to things, but like, what do they do after that point? It just drops off completely. You don't see them anymore. And that's the crazy thing about it. It's just like, where's the place where people can talk about it? And it's the great thing is I'm not an expert. I just want to know more. Like, I deal with my own problems. I have anxiety, depression, and ADHD that, I'm starting to learn different traits of, which led me down this whole exploration of just, hey, what other stuff is out there? I do have a guy coming on who is a psychiatrist is going to talk about BPD, which is I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. It's like a split personality type thing or something like that. He was going to go, further things like that. I have a girl that actually deals with it too. That I didn't know nothing about this until she mentioned it to me, and I was like, okay, well, would you consider coming on and talking about this kind of thing? And she said, yeah, oh yeah, I'll come on to educate people about it. And that's the great thing about Pete versus Anxiety is that we're exploring what else is out there besides the basic things we already know, obviously.
Right. Right. I love it, man. I really do. I think that isn't BP. I think that's a bipolar disorder, right?
No, it's what is it? It's God, I don't remember what it's called now. It's something else.
It's
I know
okay.
that much.
I just, yeah,
I was
I
like, I'm
work
trying to
with.
remember what it was.
It's all good, man. I just wanted to clarify if I was right, and if I'm not, I'm not. But yeah, that's cool.
Bipolar is one of the things too, but BPD is like I now can't remember. It's something to do with personality. Just it's a personality disorder.
It's
I know that much.
personality. Gotcha. Gotcha.
There you
Gotcha.
go. It's something
Okay.
to do with personality. So I was trying to think of what it was.
Right on. Hey, I agree with you 100% that there's nowhere near enough open talk about this kind of thing to get it out in the open and let people know how mainstream it is. I think if you walk down the street and you met 10 different people, probably nine of them have some sort of, mental issue, behavioral or anxiety or something that they're dealing with. And people just, you have no idea who you're walking past in a crowd. But as soon as it comes out, and it's out there and it gets a name and you're labeled, then everybody wants to look at you, like you said, like you're nuts.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing too is a lot of the stuff. people know it's like based on movies too. A lot of times I'll make movie references to people, but it's like like Beautiful Mind touched on schizophrenia and things like that. And then Shutter Island had the whole theory that you're just letting him play this out in his head, and it's like not everybody's crazy just because you have mental problems. I mean, we all deal with issues. Like everybody deals with it. The pandemic brought a lot of stuff out for people that they didn't realize.
Yeah.
People with anxiety, depression, all those kind of big words. Oh, I got anxiety. Oh, I'm bipolar. And it's like, oh, it's hard to diagnose it. I'm like, it's all hard to diagnose. It's hard to tell. Sometimes it manifests in different ways. Like I didn't even know I had ADHD and I'm 40 years old. And it took me till now to figure out that I even had it, which a lot of my characteristics make sense, about certain things I started noticing after I really did some research into it. A lot of people, a lot of things started showing through that I'm like, okay, well, these make sense, things like that.
Now, was that the inspiration for you starting the podcast? Was, you
Yeah,
dealing with your
it's
own
just
issues?
yeah, it is it actually was. Honestly, that's what it was. It was the fact that I'm dealing with my own problems, but I'm like, well, what are the problems other people have? I was like, let me just throw the idea out there. And this was just an idea in August. I was like, okay, let me just float the idea out there, see what's up. And I'm part of a group on Facebook called Podcast for Newbies, ran by Danny Marie. Phenomenal lady. She's been helping me out so far from the beginning of this thing when I started this. But after that, the fact that so many people had resonated, I think in a day or two, I had 55 responses to my inquiry about it alone. And I have a guest form sheet I sent out for everybody. I have about 33 in my inbox now, with another like 39 that have not been responded to just at the moment. Like it's literally taken off that fast. And it's just crazy how much people really need this space to be there. And they're all like, oh, yeah, you're right. Just like you said, it's not a place out there anybody talks about it. And like you said, you walk down the street, anybody you see, you don't know what they're dealing with. You could assume you know what they're dealing with, but like what is it they're actually dealing with is the real question, though. And that's a great idea about this thing is that other people that come on and have these other issues, you can start to notice these kind of things, and we can educate people that, you know, okay, well, this is that. Okay, well, maybe they've got that. It's not, oh, well, they're just crazy. There are people out there that are crazy, don't get me wrong. There's those people that get to that level and need to be institutionalized, yes, but not everybody's crazy just because they have some sort of issue they're dealing with at the time.
No, right on. I hear you. Now, in addition to the podcast, which you're getting ready to launch, you also have a Facebook group.
Yes, I do. It's called Pete versus Anxiety Facebook group. It's basically the same thing. I'm trying to build it like a safe space where you can come if you have a bad day, you need somebody to talk to. You can all come in and amp each other up, or you can find somebody that has maybe somebody has the same issues you do, and you all could discuss and compare and see how it is differently versus everybody else. And I have a couple people that are experts in there too that are joining too. That I have met a woman from Scotland named Liz. She's actually in that group too. So, and things like that, you can always ask her questions and things like that, or pose a question out there. And, some of these guys will come back and give you some advice like, hey, you try this or try that. And then the idea also is like, I'm touching all spaces. I'm not just doing like counselors and psychiatrists. I'm doing like spiritual healers and things like that, just to give, everybody an open idea that, if this doesn't fit for you, like the normal, therapy doesn't work for you, try something else. Maybe this will work for you better versus everything else. You don't have to go with the cookie cutter. Well, I'm going to go to the psychiatrist, get some drugs, and now I'm good to go, kind of thing, because that may not work for everybody. And that's the great thing about this whole thing.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the new energy and the healers and that type of thing. Is that have you seen some progress with that type of work in this
I,
particular topic?
I haven't yet. I really touched on it just yet. I'm still getting into the space with the people, them talking about it and stuff like that. My wife's big into like the energies and all that kind of stuff like that. So I touched on it a little bit, but then I realized some of them were reaching out to me, and I was like, well, why not? Let's get them on there. Let's see what happens. Maybe it's something to work for somebody else. I don't want people to think that, okay, well, therapy is the only option to go with. If therapy doesn't work for you guys, there's something out there to help you. I'm sure somebody can help you some way that fits with your whatever you believe in at that time.
So you're literally open to all solutions because
Yeah.
everybody needs a different type of thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. You definitely have to be. I mean, why not? I mean, there's so many different options out there. Different people have different feelings towards things. Some people resonate better with the energy healers. I have like Reiki masters, life coaches, things like that, and all these different people are reaching out to me saying, "Oh, hey, I want to be a part of this thing." And there's some other different groups. I believe on the 28th of October, I have a woman coming on who does a halfway house for people that are recovering from being addicts and stuff like that too. Her organization and things like that. So it's nice. The nice thing is like, yes, we're talking mental health, but there's other places that can help. People that have PTSD. There's this organization there. There's the lady, like I said, she's got the halfway house that for the people that are coming out of being addicts there. And different podcasts. Everybody wants to jump on this thing, and they're like, "Yeah, let's get a part of this. Let's get the message out there so everyone knows that mental health is normal to talk about."
It's a great mission, man. It really is. I mean, it's needed, and it sounds like you're really involved in it, and you're ready to, really push
Oh yeah,
to get
definitely.
the help. How long has the Facebook group been around?
It's only been around for a month now. I've had
Okay,
about 9 members now already.
good.
Everybody could just look it up. It's Pete versus Anxiety on Facebook. Obviously, it's just a podcast name right now. So, and like I post a lot of my stuff, my guests that are upcoming and things like in there and stuff like that. Like I said, I've been Amazon bestseller this week. The guy that wrote How to Live Anxiety Free, G Real Coleman is going to be on, or G Real Cole. I'm sorry, is what his name is. He was excited about it. He's like, "Oh yeah, let's do 9/11. Let's talk about being free from anxiety." I was laughing because it was catchy. I was like, "All right, that's pretty good, man. I like that."
That's great, man. All right, very, very cool. So you've got a real eclectic group of guests. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
from
definitely.
everywhere and all sorts of aspects and everything else. I mean, that Columbine one's gonna, probably be, a
Oh,
rough
that's
one
gonna
to
be that's
hear.
gonna be it's gonna
Yeah.
be a hard episode to listen to, honestly, for me
Yeah.
myself, because like, you can just imagine what she was thinking as this is going on,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
because
that's
she was
gotta be
in the
rough.
library. I didn't realize that until she fell in my guest. She was like, "Yeah, I was in the library while Columbine was going on." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, this just took it to level 10 now. All right, I like
Yeah.
that."
Wow. Jeez, oh Pete, man. I,
God,
I can't even imagine that. Yeah, you're right.
I can't either.
Okay. Now are you strictly audio podcasting? You're doing a YouTube also
I'm
or any
doing
kind of
video
visual?
actually that on the Oracle Talk Radio Network actually. My podcast will premiere at today at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 Eastern Standard Time, and they pretty much told me at this point I'm pretty much allowed to take as long as I like. When we start filling in the spots around me, it'll be like a 55-minute long podcast. But I do have an audio one that stretches from Podbean is where my home is, but I go to like Spotify, Amazon, Apple, all those other places. YouTube we're on as well, things like that, where I have like a lot of the pre-recorded interviews. I am going to start grabbing the audio from my Monday ones in case people haven't been there for them, and just posting them on there so they can listen to those as well. Because I have a lot of great guests that are coming on for all that kind of stuff. And the crazy thing is, like, when I started this thing, I didn't think it was going to take off as fast as it did, but I'm booked all the way past this December 2nd right now with just people that want to do the Monday show long.
That's awesome, man. Do I still have you?
So it,
You're breaking up a little. Do I still
yeah,
have you?
it like I
Okay.
said, yeah,
Okay, good. We're good.
I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy though. It was crazy though because it was just an idea at first, and like I said, and then before I even dropped this thing, Tom, who runs the Oracle Talk Radio Network, with him and his podcasting partner, he reached out to me and said, "Hey man, I like your concept." He's like, "Would you consider doing a weekly show?" I'm like, "Why not? Sure." And I was used to doing audio, but now it's this one's going to be a video one, so I'll be doing like a video one, but I will have the audio feed when I figure out how to get it going over there on Podbean because I'm still new to this whole thing, so I'm still trying to figure this out and things like that. And it's great because, like I said, I've been doing this for about a year now, and the things I learned are just like I'm learning things as I go, and I got a lot of help along the way. Like I said, Danny's been helping me a lot of times with a lot of stuff, and helping me out figure a lot of this stuff, and it's still a learning experience, and that's the great thing about it, guys. If you don't try, how you gonna know?
No, I love it. You're learning by taking all that messy action, man, and just going forward. It's like I'm gonna keep going. I'll learn as I go.
Right? It's like, car crash. I can't look away, but I want to.
Yeah. Okay. No, man, that's awesome. Now, in the Oracle thing, you're going to be. Did you say you're on once a week? What's the
Yeah,
frequency?
once a week, Mondays. Monday, 10 a.m.
Okay.
Central Standard Time, 11 Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be weekly on Monday for now.
Okay.
There's a bunch of time slots open still, so they're still filling it in. The idea was just to get our smaller podcasters more audience to people like that, so they stretch like Twitch and YouTube and basically all their other social media sites. We're actually going to be live on 365 today at 10 a.m. as well, which is that downloadable radio app you can use and things
Hmm.
like that too. So
Yeah.
that'll be something new. I've never used that before, so we'll see how that goes.
That's great, man. That's fantastic. All right. I'm not sure exactly when this particular episode's coming out. So I wanted to make sure that people knew, hey, even if
Yeah,
you
definitely.
missed the first one, you're still on every week over there. People
Definitely,
can
yeah.
catch it. So, which is great. That's fantastic. So I mean, how do you start in podcasting? I mean, with everything you're trying to do, that you got your message you want to send out.
It's 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 crazy, guys. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot more planning that goes into this than people realize. Like if you actually sit there and think about what do you want to talk about each week. I mean, I had a podcast originally when I first started this thing called Pete's Corner Store. A little fun thing I was doing with some friends. I think the first season alone, I just told wild stories about things I dealt with working in the retail space. And people are like, "Oh my God, did that really happen?" I'm like, "I'm telling you firsthand encounters of things that have happened here, you know." And then season two, I took on a co-host, you know, which adds a whole nother dynamic because if they're not as committed as you are, it's a lot harder. So she wasn't as committed as I was to this thing. So I decided to scrap it a couple months ago and just kind of take a break, reset, and refocus everything. And then that's how Pete's versus Anxiety basically became a thing. Like I said, it was just an idea. I floated it out there, seeing how people go, and it shot off. And I'm just like I said, I was telling Roy, I'm like I'm listening to new things here. I'm trying to figure out the things as I go here, how this stuff goes. So bear with me, guys. Some weeks it may be okay, other weeks may be bad, but I'm still figuring this thing out as we go here.
Hey, sometimes that's the best stuff to listen to, man. I mean,
Right,
everything
exactly.
in our world is all polished and trying to be perfect and professional. It's like, who needs more of that? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing. Like I listen to so many different podcasts, just like different kind of stuff, you know. And even day it could be I'm listening to the Kelsey brothers, you know. I love football, so I'm watching listening to theirs. Or I listen like there's a collecting podcast, so listen to those guys. I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts. I'm like, I listen to anything. If you got a podcast, you guys want me to check it out, I'll listen to it. I don't care. I'll check it out. You know, what is that? I had the girl was it first date with I can't think of her name, Laura something. You know, she sits there and interviews these people in like 15 questions. I'm like, I'll listen to it. If it seems corny to you, I'll still listen to it. I'll check it out, guys. I mean, it's nothing wrong. If not for me, I'll tell somebody about it. I love podcasts. Like that's all I'm listening to 24/7. Everybody's asking me, what are you listening to? Music in your? No, I'm listening to a podcast, most likely.
And that's awesome. Well, I'm going to jump right to the corny question just because you gave me such a great segue to get into it, and I still have more stuff that I want to ask you about. But
Definitely.
the corny question I ask everybody is, what do you love the most about podcasting, and what do you hate the most about podcasting?
I love the fact that the people I get to meet every day is very interesting. Like, if I could tell you right now, a year ago, if I told you I was sitting down with an Amazon bestseller and an international bestseller author, I would never believe you at this point. The other side of it is that a lot of people don't realize how this thing goes. Yeah, I'm a one man show over here, and they're like, "Well, you're not hurrying up and texting me back fast enough." I'm like, I'm one person here. I'm trying to do this. Calm down. You know, there's more to this than it takes. I literally had one woman, she was like, all right, well, I sent my sheet over. Hurry, send me a link to one of my interviews. I'm like, that's not how this works. I have to schedule when I have time. Well, you don't have time? No.
I love that. I love that. So is that the part that you hate? Is dealing with those folks who think
God,
who don't get it?
it just drives me crazy. I've dealt with people all my life. I've been in retail or other settings that deal with people. I meet new people every single day. And people have always told me the same thing. Hey, Pete, you resonate real well with other people, and you have great conversations with them, and you can relate to them because you're real. And at the same time, like if you ask me on a bad day how things are going, I'm like, yeah, I'm just not feeling today with these people, man. They're driving me crazy with these weird questions and things like that, and they get mad about everything, and it's a constant struggle. If you deal with retail for enough times, you just kind of want to just scream sometimes.
I understand. Now, I had a chance to listen to your older podcast, of course, and then it sounded like you had that monetized at least a little bit because I heard a
Yeah.
couple of ads when it first came on. Now, is that something you're doing with this podcast too? You're going to be moving towards that, or have you even
I'm
opened that
trying
jar
to
yet?
I'm trying to. I've reached out to some sponsors just to see, like, someone said talk. Reached out to Talkatree to see if they want to sponsor us or be involved in this thing. I've reached out to the PTSD Council of, I think it's Council of America, I believe what it is, or something like that. One of those associations like that, just to see if hey, you want to be a part of this growing thing as it's going, and stuff like that. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get to. It'd be great, if this thing took off to that. But I mean, the idea of the mental space of the space of mental health being talked about regularly is kind of my goal at this point. I mean, it'd be great if we can make it my job completely, but I mean, we all live in a real world these days. It's not that easy to get there, and I get that completely. That a lot of people don't get there, but it's harder than it looks, guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. Trust me. There's some days I just want to rip my hair out, and I'm bald at this point, so it doesn't matter. It literally is. It's just like people don't realize how much work goes into this thing, and you have to plan stuff, and they're like, "Oh, I've been planning for months." And things like that. And it's like, don't give up, guys. It's hard. Nobody said anything was easy in life. It was easy to all of us be doing it. Just like, people that do video game streaming on Twitch and stuff like that. You don't realize how many hours those guys spend on there sitting in those chairs, staring at those screens for them to actually do something with it. Everybody sees all the glitz and glamour. Oh, this guy made it big. He's got all this money. Well, yeah, then you know how it took to get there? I wait till you do it. Then you'll figure out real quick how hard that is.
Yeah, that's no joke. That is no joke. My son-in-law does that game streaming stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that though. It's like I mean, I get it's big. I like video games myself, But it's like I don't know if I could play the same game for like 8 hours straight. I'm like, ugh, I just don't have it in me anymore. I'm like, I'm 40, almost 40 years old. I'm like, ugh. I sit down, I'm glad if I get like 2 hours to play, and then I'm like, all right, I got to get up and do something else because I can't sit there and stare at the screen anymore like I used to. Now, in my younger days, okay, that's a different story. I could do these things, but now it's like, ugh,
Well, that's one of the things that has already started kind of pulling people together on this podcast is that people really don't understand what goes on our end behind the mic. I think they, like you said, they just think we're just sitting here waiting, for them to send something in. And because they're ready right that moment, how come I'm not ready to just jump all over it because I don't have 750 million other things to do?
right,
Yeah,
exactly, yeah, yeah. And then everybody that tells you, oh, well, you need $1,000 setup. I'm like, no, I'm using an old laptop, headphones, and a microphone. I'm piecing my stuff together.
love it.
And that's the best thing about it. It's like you don't have to have all this expensive stuff to start a podcast. Yeah, yeah, okay. Bert Kreischer's got one, but Bert's also got like an extensive amount of money too. And you're seeing a lot of these other guys. It's like that's great. But if you ask them when they started, they had humble beginnings, like and I love those too. Those type of podcasts where guys are like they're honest with you, like, okay, well, I may be a comedian, but this is not an easy road to go down. Or was it the one that's out there in Austin that because I'm in Texas, so out there in Austin they have one called Kill Tony where they have the amateur comedians come on stage and they sit there and just give them a hard time if they just bomb or they're great, and it's like people don't realize how hard some of these spaces are to do. Like comedy's crazy. Doing this itself is insane too. Streaming and then being on TikTok, like you're in a social light, man. You better be ready for what happens next because a lot of people don't realize what it's like to be in that popular space. It's like, oh, I want to be all popular, but are you ready for what comes with it? Because there's a gentleman by the name of King Scratz I listen to who's on Twitch a lot of times. He'll be the first one to tell you that he's been doing this for a long time. He said, you better be ready because they're going to analyze everything you do. They're going to look at your family. They're going to look at you. They're going to come at you, personally attack you. So that's the other thing people need to realize too is that when you get up there, it's great to have all these things, but if you ask a lot of those guys, they'll tell you a lot of the negative comments that come in, they're like it weighs heavily on their minds.
Yeah, that's not a joke. I've actually been
No.
there too. Yeah. I actually have received three death threats over my time in podcasting. And I'm like, listen, man, I don't care what you're talking about. You know, a death threat is just not something you should ever get in your inbox.
It's like, what did I say that you don't
I mean,
like
wow.
so bad? Did you not agree with I didn't like the restaurant you picked?
I mean, yeah, tell me that I'm awful. That's
That's the
cool.
great thing,
Yeah, but wow, I'm so bad you want me
right?
gone? Dang, brother. Lighten up, switch to
Exactly. It's like you're
decaf,
ready, you're
man.
ready to kill me over this concept?
Holy cow. So yeah, I get it though, and
Yeah,
it's
right.
crazy being on this side. Now, were you a guy who
Hmm.
kind of came? I mean, you're a good talker, that's for sure. I mean, you present yourself really well. You got a great voice, and so you don't seem like you have a hard time, speaking, into the mic and interacting and everything
No.
else. So, was that a natural thing for you, or did you have some obstacles you had to overcome to,
Um,
launch?
I waited tables for a long time. Like I know people saying this like, oh, the cliche restaurant job. Remember the movie Waiting? God, I swear to God, if I didn't get enough questions of, is this the kind of stuff that happens in the back scene when I send my order back? No, ma'am, this is not what happens. No, but I waited tables for a while, so like I can have a conversation with pretty much anybody, and it costs nothing to be nice to people. You know what I mean? Like where I'm at now, it feels like I'm a bartender with most people. I come in, ask them how their day was. I think the craziest thing to date someone's told me, actually twice now, someone's come in and told me they both had sons that committed suicide. One guy lost his wife, and they all just told me these things. Like I just said, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Well, I'm not doing great." I said, okay, well, is something wrong? Maybe I can make your day. You want to tell me about it or something? Like just kind of like just talking to them because I do some of these people on a regular basis. They come in, I see them, I don't know them by name. Now, mind you, I don't know these people by name. I don't know anything about them. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, they start spilling all these secrets to me. Like, oh yeah, my son committed suicide the other day, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm sorry about that. And it's just really real genuine. Honestly, it's just being genuine to people. It's like you don't
Yeah.
have to know what they're going through, but damn, you don't realize what they're dealing with that sometimes. And the way I always sign my podcast off is that it costs zero to be kind to somebody because that kind act could save somebody's life. And a lot of people have said, yeah, that's right, because you don't realize that you're just being nice to somebody could make them feel like they're being noticed in the world. And I had a guest that mentioned that too. She's like, I felt like I'm not being noticed, things like that. And it had to do a lot with suicide because she was like, well, I felt like nobody notices me. I just kind of float through space. And she said, just that kind words of, hey, how you doing? Or whatever, just being polite to somebody can make their day to make them feel like they're actually being noticed again, which is weird because a lot of people think it's like, oh, well, I got to sit there and constantly ask them if they're okay. Or it doesn't. It's really not. Like I got firsthand encounters. Some people that have thought about committing suicide, they told you exactly what it is they're thinking, or, hey, this is what could have been different. Just showing, just saying, hey, how you doing? Hey, I love you. To your loved one, just say, hey, I love you. That resonates well with people. People don't realize that's all it takes sometimes is they just want to be noticed sometimes. Some people feel like they're not being heard. And it's the craziest thing ever because it's like, one little act can cause so much change in people, and things like that. And that's what they teach you a lot of times in customer service. The way I was taught was that, you just kind to everybody, be nice to everybody, kill them with kindness and stuff like that. Because a lot of times, if you're just genuine, people could read genuine people. But if you have that robotic voice, people know that you're being robotic. They know, like people don't even realize it, but we can tell. We can read your body language and tell that you're acting fake with us.
Yeah.
You can be nice one minute and then turn on the other one. And that's when that movie Waiting came into play. Was that, oh, are you gonna go spit my food and do all these disgusting things? I'm like, no, it's a movie, for the love of God. Stop it. Stop thinking everything in a movie actually happens in a restaurant. Okay, it's not how it works,
I,
and
you
it's
know,
the crazy part.
unfortunately, people think that things that happen in movies actually happen everywhere. You know what I
Oh
mean?
God, listen,
In
movies are
life.
great. Movies are great. They're great to visualize things. They're great to, get that message out there that the possibilities are there. But geez, these guys, like, understand that some of these topics are a little extreme. It's a movie, it's fiction. Now, if it says it's based on actual events, okay, now it's a little different. Okay, then I can see where you're getting your information from. But don't go watch a Chris Hansen video and assume that you already know everything about pedophiles and everything else like that, things like that. Because, he used to do all those catching a predator ones. And those are always funny because, like, hey, it's Chris Hansen. Hey, you know what you're doing here right now? And it's like, no. And it's like, they think, okay, well, that's how you identify people. I'm like, yeah, I think there's more that goes in that conversation you're not seeing on plate.
Right. You got to condense it all into that little time slot, to make it fit.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not a joke either. Um, I love it. You brought up getting noticed. And so let me just ask you, what's been your experience in promoting your shows? What has worked for you? What has been kind of a waste of time?
I've been using TikTok a lot. I got a lot of friends on there. I got another friend named Pete that he has a show called Talking Shit with Pete on the 365. And I've got all these different like big name people that are on there, like Jason, which is a bootleg reviews. He's got like over almost 500,000 followers and stuff like that. And it's so far it's actually worked pretty well. I used that. It's Facebook. I got a bunch of different groups I'm in with guests and things like that. And we all try to support each other's podcasters. We follow each other's podcasts and things like that. And I push on Instagram, which I'm still figuring out Instagram. I'm not the sexy girl, guys. I'm sorry that you want to look at on Instagram. Okay. I'm a 39-year-old man balding with a beard on. Okay, I'm sorry, that's not your ideal thing to look at, but I mean, it's so far, like I said, it's worked. TikTok's been great. It's kind of fun playing with the algorithm, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. Because sometimes your videos get a lot of views and they don't. But I've got a lot of friends and a lot of support systems that kind of share my videos, and they have bigger, stronger followings. My old co-host actually has like 30,000. I asked her to do a video about mine, and it helped get a lot of light on that one too. And I've just been on Podbean. Like when I go live on Podbean, I've got a lot of people that come in there every so often. I had a lady the other day said this is probably her new favorite podcast after she heard our conversation. And me and another woman were talking about, she was describing the whole thing about the jacket on the door. And she was in the comments talking about, oh yeah, I love this. This is great. I'm so excited. So I mean, it's harder than it looks, guys. You got to promote yourself on social media. You got to put yourself out there. But I mean, you never know until you try, though. Honestly.
No, that's great. I appreciate you sharing that with everybody. Not everybody's even had the chance to get on multiple platforms. There
Right.
are people that I talk to are like, "Oh, I just use Facebook." It's like, and if it's working for you, great. But there's also 700 other things you could be doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's you're trying a lot of them. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's a good way to
Yeah,
go.
the nice thing with Podbean is it distributes a lot of places. I've got there's a Samsung app. Like the first month we did, it exploded up. And it's nuts. Like a lot of these people come from sorry, come from different places and things like that. And it's like, you could reach so many different markets or Spotify, Amazon, all the ones we already know. But then there's like these weirder ones that, like the Samsung podcast app, like I didn't know it even existed. And then it started blowing up. Like my first month with Pete's Corner Store, the original one I was doing. When I switched fully to Podbean instead of using Spotify podcasters, it exploded. I had over like 500 downloads in the first month. And they were downloading the weirdest episodes too, and like it was the weirdest conversations. Like it's a weird thing trying to figure out what niche people want to hear. But there was a bunch of them were just like they were downloading a bunch of episodes, and one of them was just me and a friend just having a conversation while she's trying to build a desk in the background. Like I guess y'all y'all just love a little building expert going on, okay? A little Bob Vila flashback for anybody who remembers Bob Vila, you know?
Wow. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're dating ourselves that you and I know Bob Vila because a lot
Right,
of people have no
exactly.
idea who that poor guy is. No, but yeah, listen, one of the questions that I always like to kind of end with, because I know you got like a live thing you got to go to in a little while here.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
appreciate you jumping on this morning and making time. Thanks for that,
Oh,
man.
definitely. It was exciting. As soon as I got this message, I was like, heck yeah. I was telling people, I'm like, oh, listen, I'm going to be on Podcast Nation. And they're like, can you stop talking about it, please? I'm like, no, I can't. I'm so excited.
That's great. Thanks, man. Okay, so yeah, listen, the you've been doing it for a little while, and even though
Hmm.
this is a new project for you, you've had one before that, and you've learned a lot. I mean, even in our pre-interview, I could tell you've really gone through a lot of stuff and picked up a lot of info. You've had people help you. If you're talking to a podcaster who's like 6 to 12 episodes in, they've kind of decided, hey, I'm going to stick with this now. Now what? Right?
Guys, yeah, definitely. Guys, the best message I got was from a gentleman named Paul. He runs a podcast for like men's like supportive things, like helping men. Uh, Stay consistent. Like, be consistent. If you're gonna say you're gonna drop episodes on Monday, drop those episodes on Monday. Be consistent. Be constantly ahead of the curve. It's okay to pre-record things, plan things out. Make sure it sounds like it makes sense because in the beginning, if you listen to some of my earlier stuff, it's just all over the place. Like we're completely all over the place. But like my men's mental health episode that resonated with a lot of people, that a lot of people loved. It was very thoughtful. I thought everything through, things like that. And it's like, understand like this is not easy. Like what we do here is not easy. Like planning these episodes, figuring out when you're going to talk to people about things, it's tough. Like you got a lot of work behind you coming. Like if I explain to you how my day goes, I go to work all night, I come home, I do this, I do that, I juggle all these things, and I still make it happen. And that's the thing about it. It's like don't get frustrated, man. It may seem like at first you're not getting hit with something. Try changing your subject. Maybe that subject isn't resonating with people. Do a lot of research about what space you're in too, because like I looked at the mental health space I'm in, but 90% of them are all like, oh, this is Dr. So and so. There's this expert. It's like, but where's the message of where we can just talk about things? Like people just like me and Rory just talking about this whole concept of mental health. And a lot of people say the same thing. Well, it doesn't exist. Well, we have Facebook. We have all these other things that do these little great little clickbait things. And it's great to do, but don't get discouraged, guys. Just keep trying. I mean, because like I said, I didn't even think I was going to be around the tape. I told you a year ago I'd be on some radio show on the internet and I get approached, I've been laughing at you. I'm like, yeah, man, I just started this concept. It's not really how this works. But like I said, thankfully, I thank Tom and everybody else over at Oracle for offering me this opportunity and things like that because he was just like, hey, I like your topic. Let's give it a shot and see where it goes. And it's the great thing about it, guys, is that it's not costing me anything to do this. Now, I can invest if I want to. That option's there. But I mean, obviously, you'll get to that point. So don't feel like you're not getting anywhere. You just got to be consistent and just pay attention to what episodes are downloading. Sometimes you'll find a subject they want to hear you talk about. Like I said, the best episode so far when I did Pete's Corner Store was just some random conversation me and someone had about her building a desk in the background. Apparently, people really just like we're resonating with them. But I'm like, the crazy thing is like you don't know who's listening anymore and things like that. So you never know. You may catch somebody in a whole nother country. I do have guests all over the place. A lot of them I get from are from the England and UK and Scotland. I have a gentleman in Sydney I'm going to sit down and talk to and stuff like that because you never know. You could be right where I'm at. I could be talking to Amazon bestseller on Wednesday. I had an international bestseller sit down and talk to me. It's like you never know what happens, man. Just don't give up.
That's awesome. I love what you're doing, man. I really do. And
I appreciate it.
I thank you so much for being on today and, sharing everything that you're doing and why. I mean, you've been, open and honest and authentic. And I'm sure the listeners appreciate that. And they all know that you're real, brother. And I appreciate that very much.
Thank you so
Um,
much. I appreciate it too.
how do you want people to contact you if they want to, be on the show or get some advice from you or whatever?
If you want to be on the show, guys, just hit me up on Facebook, Peace versus Anxiety Podcast Group. You can hit me up on Instagram at Pete underscore versus underscore anxiety at Instagram. I'm on podcast. I'm on TikTok at Pete versus Anxiety Podcast. You can just reach me out at any of those places. Just reach out to me directly if you want to. And like I said, I'll answer you. It may take me a minute. Honestly, I'm one person. So please keep that in mind. Like I told Rory and I were discussing, I'm one person. Okay. If I don't see your message, it's not that I'm ignoring you. I will get to you. And like I said, and then I'll shoot you over guest form like do everybody else, or I'll send you a link and you go on there and just we'll go from there. Like I said, I'll reach out to you and let you know exactly when exactly we can sit down and talk about it. But like I said, I want to hear your stories, guys. If you have something you want to tell me, you have some crazy story you want to tell me, you just want to talk to me. Let's go ahead. Let's talk. I'm down. we'll set up a time. We'll sit down and just discuss. Just like me and Rory are just doing right now. We're just having a conversation right now. Why not? I'm down. So let me know.
Right on. Listen, I appreciate it, man. That's fantastic. Folks, all of that information is going to be in the show notes. And, this guy's very available, very easy to contact. He and I went back and forth several times setting this up. So, and you're going to be able to find him on all kinds of different platforms, including Oracle. So look for him over there. Pete, thank you, man. Thanks for being here today.
I appreciate it, Rory. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Like I said, man, I was excited. As soon as I got this message, I was like, awesome. Going to be on Podcast Nation. Like, what is that? you know, like people don't realize how excited I am. They're like, can you stop talking about your podcast now? I'm tired of hearing about it. Well, I got to promote this thing somehow.
I love it, man. Well, when it comes out, I'll give you the links and you can promote this one also.
Definitely. Sounds great. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Folks, you've had this is another fantastic episode of the Podcaster Nation, and thank you so much for being here today. This is the podcast that's about podcasters. It's by podcasters. It's for podcasters. This is the podcast where the rising tide raises all ships. So keep sailing. I'll talk to you all soon.